Hey free-to-play gang, welcome back to another video. So this is my favorite kind of videos, just talking about espers and showing what they can do and then doing some runs after that. Okay, so today we're going to talk about my favorite 3-star esper, or rather the rare esper, and he's none other than the best boy Drew. So he is a really powerful esper that has a lot of value in a lot of PvE content and some PvP content as well, and some I just mean point war, right? Regardless, let's take a look at his kit and how I'm building him. This is obviously just the way that I want to do so, but we're going to take a look at his skills first before I forget about it. So we are starting off with Piercing Strike. Strikes the target, dealing damage equal to 130% of attack. If a critical hit is triggered, you reduce the cooldown of Death Judgment by 1 turn. So you could potentially use Avatara on him because this can potentially reduce the cooldown of your third skill. However, do take note that his third skill is not going to be so important. It's only more important in like the earlier waves of, like, let's say Ritual Miracles. It's not going to be so useful in a boss fight per se because the multipliers on your third skill is not that good. And then let's move on to his second skill, which is Shadow Shock. Deals damage to an enemy equal to 220% of attack with a 85% chance of inflicting defense down for 2 turns. Do take note that this skill has a cooldown of 2 turns, which means that it is very reliable as a defense breaker. And finally, Death Judgment, which is whatever that he's really known for, right? So this is the skill that bounces around. So you deal damage equal to 260% of attack to a target. And if the target dies, you perform a bonus attack against a random enemy, dealing damage equal to 150% of attack. The bonus attack ignores enemy defense and can be triggered up to 2 times within 1 turn. So this is like his triple killing skill, and it is remarkably powerful. Now the reason why you want to use Drew over like a typical AoE esper like, let's say, Mona or even Li Ling, right, is because of the sheer damage that you can do with his third skill over here. You're not going to get the same kind of effect, okay? So there is a very big condition here, which is your first target needs to die, which is what you must always try to meet. But as long as you can achieve this function, his third skill is going to be very, very powerful. So now let's take a look at the relics that I'm running him with. This is very typical. This is just basically your War Machine and some 2-piece set, right? You can use Avatara here. I'm just using Adamantine for several reasons, and I'm not going to cover it too much over here because it's unrelated to Drew as an esper. So War Machine is pretty straightforward. Of course, you can use other options like, let's say, Hammer of Thor, which is something that you unlock from the Fafnir. But I typically wouldn't recommend it. I think War Machine works perfectly fine. So you're going to use Drew to farm Chronos 10 a lot anyway for like maybe the good part of your entire lifespan in this game. You may interchange between APEP and all that, but generally speaking, you're going to get a ton of War Machine just by using Drew, which you can then reinvest into him to upgrade him even further. So to me, what I think is really important is to have a 100% crit rate because you want his third skill to bounce effectively. You want to be able to one-shot the first target with a critical hit, and then you want to make sure that the second target definitely dies from a crit as well, therefore you can bounce on to the third target. So 100% critical rate, this is a must. Now the only reason why you may not need to run with 100% crit is if you are running characters such as Dahlia. So Dahlia over here, she grants your allies with critical rate buff, which increases your critical rate by 30%. And of course, some crit damage, which is always going to be good, and of course some attack power as well, and there you go. So this is a complete kit. Attack, crit rate, crit damage, that's it. And if you have any extra subs, you may choose to push it into accuracy so that his second skill can land a little bit more effectively. But apart from that, honestly, this is just good enough. So let's take a look at some runs. Okay, so time for some PvP. Drew is going to be an excellent choice in the early game, but he kind of falls off a little bit into the late game, or rather, I don't really see him used that much, and I can kind of understand why he's not used that much, especially against the tankier comps. So his first skill may not always be able to hit an enemy that has low HP because people are just so tanky in the end game. So over here, we're just going to use Lin Xiao to hopefully land some defense breaks, and we did land a defense break over there. So we're going to use his third skill and hopefully snipe out 3 targets as long as we don't target Hyde. Because the problem with Hyde is that he tends to absorb all the... Okay, yeah, look at that. So Hyde took a double kill there for some reason. I'm not sure why. Is that a bug? I have really no idea. But we could have potentially killed 3 targets in one go because I don't think anyone can survive 70,000 damage, especially when you're completely ignoring defense. So we're going to try again after this round. Actually, you know what? I lied. I set this up perfectly. Let's take a look at this again. But do take note that now they have the Mark of the Lotus over here. So they actually reduce the damage that they take by 50%. Nonetheless, they're all still going to perish. So there you go. That is round number 1. Let's take a look at another one. Okay, so this can be a little bit complicated. I hope we do not target the Sally on one of our bouncers. I'm very sure that we can take out something though. But yeah, I just hope that we do not get locked in by the Sally because she will be completely able to soak up all of our damage because of her typing. And yeah, same strategy over here. We're going to land a bit of a defense break. very nice. So we're gonna start Li Ling over here because he is not stunned. I mean, he's not frozen or anything like that. So he's probably a very big threat. So let's go. Bam, bam, bam. There you go. Triple kill just like that. So this is the power of having Drew on your team, and yes, he's rather easy to build, and I mean, he is also a free-to-play character, so there is no doubt about it that he has a lot of potential in this game. Now, time for some PvE content. We're going to start off with K10, of course, but before we get into it, if you find that this video has been helpful for you so far, consider subscribing, as subscribing is free, and you can always change your mind afterwards. Now, the point of Drew in this lineup is just a cleanup crew. He's not so much used for cleaving anymore. I will use him for cleaving for APEP, but not for Chronos. And also secondary to that, he is here just to land a defense break as well. And you will see that in the boss floor. And he is so important for being a cleanup crew over here, because then we can save Chalmers' third skill for the boss. But of course, do take note that this is by no means an early game team. This is just purely a showcase of what Drew can potentially do, so just bear with me that this content may not be entirely relevant to you right now. It is after all just an Esper showcase, so I have to show him at his best performance. So that's about it for Chronos over here. He is just here for some extra DPS. He's not really like the main show over here, and that's because we have Sander, Lin Xiao and Chloe who are currently stealing the show. But I think to be fair to Drew, let's take a look at APEP where he's slightly more relevant and he's doing a lot more and carrying more weight. So now for APEP, he is going to be much more than just a cleanup crew. He is also going to cleave through the first few waves. And that's because I made Lin Xiao a little bit faster so she can do a little bit more damage to all of the enemies at the start. Although I think one way that we can slightly improve on this team is to replace Chalmers with Anki Chai. And yeah, I just thought of that on the fly. But I think I should still just test it out first before I make content about it. So this team still needs a little bit of work because Chalmers used his attack over here, which is not a good thing. We need to save it for the boss. And then Lin Xiao proceeded to use her third skill, and now we waste our attack buff. But that's because this isn't my main lineup. I tend to use Chloe, so usually Chloe does the cleaving for me. But I just wanted to show how Drew can cleave here as well. Okay, and now at the boss fight, like I said before, he is no longer going to be so relevant because his third skill is not going to do much except for his second skill. So his second skill can still land defense breaks, and if we do successfully land defense breaks, that's going to reduce our run times by a little bit. But anyway, that's about it. So from here on, it's kind of straightforward. And hopefully you guys found this video helpful in some way. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And subscribe for more dislike content if you have not already done so. But if you find that you still have any other questions or doubts, feel free to leave it down in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you soonest. And with that said, this has been Free to Play, by the way. And as always, I will see you in the next video.